Keanu Reeves never wears jewelry, no wedding band, no necklaces, not even a watch. People have asked why. His answer is always the same. I've lost too many things to ever want to carry something that can be taken again. But what no one knows, not his closest friends, not his co-stars, not even the directors he's trusted for decades, is that there's one exception and he keeps it in his pocket. A ring, small, worn, its band cracked at the base. The inscription inside almost faded to dust. He never talks about it, but every so often, when he thinks no one is watching, he'll take it out, hold it in his palm, thumb the inner curve, as if waiting for it to whisper something. This is the story of how that ring came to be in his hand. And it began in a thrift shop no one talks about, in a town no one remembers. The sun had just started setting over Ridgewell, population 612, a sleepy roadside town in northern Arizona where tumbleweeds outnumber the people. Keanu had taken a detour. No assistants, no cameras, just him, an old leather bag, and a dusty motorcycle that hadn't run clean in days. He wasn't running from anything, but he wasn't running to anything either. Sometimes he just drove, let the road decide. That's when he saw it. A flickering neon sign, yesterday's treasures, flickering, buzzing, half the letters dead, but it pulled at something in him. He parked outside. The building sagged under the weight of time, its wooden frame buckled, its windows clouded with desert dust. He stepped inside and was hit by a wall of quiet, the kind of silence that hangs in air heavy with memory. No music, no humming air conditioner, just the low tick of a clock behind the counter. The store was cluttered, cramped, rows of old vinyl records, shelves of cracked porcelain, stacks of yellowing books. It smelled of cedar and forgotten stories. Then he heard her. A voice, soft, tired, but fighting to stay steady. "Please, I think it's mine." Keanu turned. At the far end of the counter stood an elderly woman, late 70s, maybe older. Her hair was snow-white, tied back neatly. She wore a faded blue cardigan and had one trembling hand resting on the glass display case. Inside the case, nestled between antique brooches and rusted cufflinks, sat a simple gold ring. The clerk, a disinterested man in his 20s, shrugged. "Ma'am, there's no way to prove that. People bring stuff in all the time. Could have been sitting in a drawer for decades." "But the engraving," she insisted. "Inside, I think I remember it." "Lots of rings have engravings, lady." Keanu stepped closer. Watched. Quiet. The woman didn't argue. She just stared at the ring like it held her breath hostage. Her hands clenched tighter around her small purse. "I lost it in a fire," she said, almost to herself. 1968. It was our wedding ring, mine and Robert's. We didn't have much back then, but he had it made special. There's a line inside, a promise. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "You got $60? She opened her purse, counted slowly. Her fingers shook. Quarters, dimes, a crumpled $5 bill. Some coins rolled across the counter. $11.37. Keanu moved, walked up slowly and stood beside her. She glanced at him, surprised, not by who he was, but by the softness in his eyes. "I'll pay for it," Keanu said simply. The clerk blinked. "Wait, are you—" Keanu didn't answer, just pulled out a $100 bill and placed it on the glass. The woman looked at him, eyes brimming. I didn't mean for you to—" "It's not for you," he said gently. "It's for him. And for promises kept." The clerk hesitated, then handed her the ring. She held it like it was made of air, slowly turned it over, slid it on her wrinkled finger. It fit perfectly. She read the engraving aloud, barely a whisper. "Until the stars fall." Keanu didn't speak. He only nodded once. The woman's hands trembled as she clutched his. "He died in that fire," she said. "But I always thought, if I could find this again, maybe some part of him wasn't gone." Keanu looked down at her hand, at the way the ring glowed against her skin like it had been waiting. "What's your name?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Just a passerby." She smiled back, eyes shining. "Well, I'll remember you, passerby." He helped her to the door, watched as she walked off into the falling dusk, holding her hand up to the sky like she was showing Robert. She got it back. Then he turned back to the counter. The clerk stared at him now, more alert, maybe a little nervous. "You want a receipt or—" Keanu pointed to the glass case. "What happens to the stuff that doesn't sell?" The clerk shrugged. "Goes in a box. Sometimes we toss it. Sometimes we donate." Keanu nodded, reached into his pocket, pulled out another bill, this one thicker. "How about you box it all up for me?" The clerk blinked. "All of it. All of it." He left 10 minutes later with a taped-up box in the saddlebag of his bike and the desert wind tugging at his jacket. He didn't open it for weeks, but when he did, when he finally poured the contents out onto the floor of his hotel room among old coins and bent frames, he saw it. Another ring, not gold, brass, cracked and near breaking, no gem, no shine. But when he held it to the light, he saw the faintest carving inside, barely there, until the stars fall. Another one, almost like it had waited for him, and in that moment, Keanu understood something. Some things find their way back. Others choose who they go to next, and this one chose him. Keanu didn't put the ring on. He never would. It wasn't his, not really, but he carried it, always, in the pocket closest to his chest, as if something in it needed to stay near his heart. He never told anyone about that day in Ridgewell. Not the woman's name, not the shop, not the moment. It wasn't a story to share. It was something quieter, more sacred, something that lived in the silence between moments. Weeks passed, then months. Film shoots came and went, hotels, trailers, red carpets and scripts, and still the ring stayed with him. Every night before sleep, he'd place it on the nightstand. Every morning, it went back into his pocket. It became a rhythm, a ritual, like prayer. But then something shifted. It started with a letter, no return address, just a single folded page slipped under his hotel room door in Chicago. The handwriting was shaky, old, the ink smudged. It read, "I know what you found. She talked about you until the end, said you were the one who helped her bring him home. But there's more, Keanu. There's something you don't know about that ring, and if it's still with you, you need to come back to Ridgewell before it's too late." He stared at the letter for a long time. His coffee grew cold. The street below hummed with traffic and life, but inside everything was still. That name. Before it's too late. He packed a bag within the hour. 2 days later, Keanu stood once again before the sagging shopfront of yesterday's treasures. But something was different. The neon sign was dark. The windows were boarded up. A faded notice taped to the door, permanently closed, estate sale completed. He stood there, motionless. Dust blew across the road. The desert air tasted of old copper and distance. He knocked anyway. No answer. The shop was gone. The past locked away. He turned to leave when he noticed a woman across the street, sitting on a wooden bench, watching him. She wore a wide-brimmed hat and held a cane in her lap. Her skin was worn from time and sun, but her eyes were sharp. She gestured to him. "You're late," she said, as he approached. Keanu blinked. "Excuse me?" "She passed 3 days ago, peacefully. Her name was Eleanor. She said you might come." He sat beside her, slowly. "She remembered me." The woman nodded. "Said a man gave her back her husband's promise. Said you didn't give your name, but she called you her angel of dust and silence. Dramatic, wasn't she?" Keanu smiled faintly. His hand drifted to his pocket. The ring was still there. "She left something," the woman said, reaching into her bag. A box, small, wooden, smoothed by touch and time. She handed it to him. "Said if you ever returned, this was meant for you." He opened it. Inside, another ring, identical engraving, but not cracked, not worn. This one was polished, preserved, protected, and beneath it, a note. Short. Written in Eleanor's fading script, "The one you gave me wasn't mine. I knew the second I wore it, but I needed to believe it was, to feel like he was still close. You let me have that. This one, though. This one was always meant for you. My Robert found it in the ashes months after the fire. He said it came with no name, that he kept it because it felt like someone would come looking. Maybe you were never late, Keanu. Maybe you were always part of this story. Love doesn't end. Sometimes it just takes the long way home. His hands trembled. For the first time, he saw the inscription differently. Until the stars fall. Not a goodbye, a direction. The woman beside him stood. You going to keep it? He looked at her. No, he said, then paused. I'm going to carry it. She smiled. Then I think you already are. He stayed on the bench long after she left. The box rested in his lap. 2 rings, 2 paths, 1 promise, now twice made. And somewhere deep in the silence of Ridgewell, beneath the dust and the years, something had closed. Or maybe, finally, something had opened. Keanu never returned to Ridgewell after that day, not physically, but the town lived in him, quietly, like a song you hear once and never forget. He carried the 2 rings everywhere, 1 broken, 1 whole, tucked inside a folded cloth, wrapped with care, like they might shatter from sound alone. He didn't speak of them, didn't explain, not to friends, not to interviewers, not even when asked directly. He just smiled in that soft way of his, like there were whole lifetimes behind his eyes he wasn't ready to unfold. Then came the letter. Different this time. Typed, clean, professional. An invitation. A small museum in Santa Fe was opening an exhibit, The Unclaimed, Jewelry with No History. A curator had sourced rings, pendants and tokens found in disaster sites, hospitals and lost property rooms. The letter asked Keanu if he might consider donating the piece he was rumored to carry. Somehow they knew, somehow word had traveled. He almost threw the letter away, but something held his hand. The exhibit opened 2 months later. Keanu didn't attend the ribbon cutting, didn't tell anyone he'd be coming. He walked in through a side door the morning after, just as the sun rose and the building still smelled of fresh paint and cold glass. Room 3. Rings without stories. They sat under soft lights. 22 rings, some warped by fire, some engraved in forgotten languages, some smooth and silent. Keanu stood in front of the display case and opened his hand. The broken ring sat in his palm, still cracked, still carrying that fading line. Until the stars fall. He didn't place it in the case. Not yet. He turned as a security guard approached. You can't bring personal items, he started, then froze when he saw Keanu's face. Keanu simply asked, Who else has donated something with that inscription? The guard was quiet for a moment, then said, Just one. He led Keanu to the end of the room, a smaller case, inside a silver chain, and on it a ring, brass, no stone, almost identical, but newer. The tag read, Recovered after the Santa Paula fire, 1971. Owner unknown. Keanu leaned closer. The same inscription, exactly the same, until the stars fall. Something settled in his chest, not shock, not even wonder, just the slow, heavy understanding that the ring was never about one person. It had passed through hands, through grief, through fire. It had survived love and loss and time. He looked down at his own, the cracked one, his fingers curled around it. He didn't place it in the case. Instead, he left a note, tucked into the museum's ledger at the front desk. It read only 2 rings, same promise, one I gave, one I carry. Maybe someone will know what they mean. Maybe they already do. He walked out into the morning light, the broken ring still safe in his hand. The other, Eleanor's, Robert's, or someone else's, remained in the cloth in his jacket. Later that week, someone uploaded a grainy photo to a quiet corner of the internet. Keanu, walking through a graveyard at dusk, placing something on a headstone worn smooth by time. No name visible. Just a small velvet box beside a single sunflower. The post didn't go viral. It wasn't shared by fan pages or dissected by blogs, but a woman in Montana saw it and whispered, I had that ring once. And a man in Ohio stared at it for hours, holding a box of his mother's letters, wondering how she knew the phrase before he was born. And somewhere a priest looked at the photo, smiled softly, and said, he's still carrying not just the ring, the promise, because some people carry light, others carry silence. And Keanu Reeves, without ever saying a word, chose to carry both.